We've got to, sorry, this is a bit so jargony, invest in school-based processes for improving teachers' pedagogical content knowledge. What I mean by, I'll come on, say a bit more about that in a minute, but what I mean by that is we need to get into appropriate forms of teacher learning. There are ways in which we can structure staff development which we know will actually have an impact upon practice. Most of the forms of professional development that are currently utilized around the world have no impact on teacher behavior at all, right? It may give them a language that they can talk about stuff in, right, but it doesn't actually impact upon teacher behavior. That's what I mean by here, and I'll go on to that. I'll unpack that in a second. And I've said now a few times today that working in small groups, by working in small groups, the whole school staff can become a nurturing unit, and that's the triad stuff. Again, the evidence on triads is very, very strong in terms of actually giving teachers confidence. This is not a principal observing you teach. This is your colleague working with you on a professional debate, and that provides a secure platform for teacher development. Right? It's not threatening. It is professionally oriented. So you see where I'm taking you. I'm upping the debate here, right, from an agreement on some core values, which are nice, to actually now putting certain things in place which require some effort on your part, but also some reciprocal effort on your colleagues. Let's unpack this one here, because all the evidence that we have suggests that teacher learning will only take place under certain conditions, all right? And you must probably be familiar, or some of you will be familiar with the research that Bruce Joyce and Beverly Showers have done on this, when they talk about the five components of effective staff development. You have to have theory, you have to have demonstration, you have to have practice, you have to have feedback on that practice, and then you need coaching. And those 5 elements have to be linked together. Leave out one of those, you will not get teacher learning, all right? You won't get an alteration to behavior, all right? Well, we design this when we run these workshops. We talk about the workplace and the workshop, all right? The workshop is a setting like this where, someone can come in, one of your colleagues, I was in Robin's school back in September, saw some really exemplary teaching. Get those guys in and get them to stand up here, show the video of how they deal with low-level instruction, all right? So they talk about the key ideas, the theory behind it. We see the video of them doing it, right? We develop the guidelines from that, and then we practice it ourselves around in corners of the room like this, okay? That'll give you the behavior, but it won't transfer it into your classroom practice unless we actually have immediate and sustained practice in your own classroom, collaboration and peer coaching, and some reflection and action research. It's only by doing that that you can actually begin to guarantee a change, a transfer of training, a change in teacher behavior that is sustained, all right? If you don't do that, you might as well not bother, all right? And the trouble is that so much of our PD, doesn't follow that design. All right. So it's late in the afternoon, so I can be quite robust with you about that. We know this. This is knowledge, and you know it as well, because we've all been involved in training programs which have cost us a lot of money, but actually haven't had the impact because they haven't covered all of those bases. All right. See where I'm taking you? I'm taking you from the nice, let's hold hands together, agreeing on core values, right, to stuff then that you have to do, right, to being quite specific, right, about the training designs that we actually sort of need to actually approach teacher learning. Let me give you the last level of challenge now, all right? And again, this builds upon some of the work of Richard Elmore, who is a friend of yours as well as a friend of mine, a friend of Victoria's. And Richard these are the principles that Richard has laid down. And I often, when I see the slide up there, I've often wanted to just sort of translate Richard's American into English, but I haven't done it because his words are actually quite stark. So let's just stay with his words, but let's just take them one by one. And again, the evidence that he has produced, and this is a man who's worked in this area virtually more than anybody else. This is the evidence that he reckons will not produce. Without this, you won't get the shift in culture that we've seen in those 12 outstanding schools.